When the Miami Grand Prix first came about, it quickly became known as the American Cringe Fest. From fake boats in the fake marina to the laughable driver introductions, all on a low-quality street circuit. When you added in the insane ticket prices, it quickly became the laughingstock of the F1 calendar. But this year, I'm pleased to say, Cringe Fest is cancelled. The race organizers learned from their mistakes and stopped taking themselves so seriously. They leaned into the silly nature of the fake marina, and now they consider it a point of pride, in a tongue-in-cheek sort of way. And they also cancelled the driver introductions, which made my butt pucker so hard I was picking bits of the couch out of it for the rest of the week. And it gets better. Not only did the organizers tone down the cringe, but the drivers dialed up the racing. As I'm sure you know, Lando Norris finally took his first victory on merit. Let's talk about that. Welcome to Race Weekend Update. This is the story of the 2024 Miami Grand Prix. Max Verstappen made a mistake for the first time in years, opening the door for Lando Norris to take his first victory after more than 100 races. Max didn't seem too upset by this. In fact, it was actually quite cute watching him wave to Lando from his car during the cooldown lap. And Max wasn't the only driver who wanted to celebrate Norris's maiden victory with him. Sainz came and put his arm around his former teammate and bromantic partner, while Fernando Alonso came over to Parc Ferme to give Lando his congratulations. Everyone was happy for Lando Norris today. Everyone except me, that is, because I lost my shirt over this race. Literally.
To me!
That's right. My friend Emily and I had a bet going where if Lando Norris won a race before Oscar Piastri, I would give her both my Lando Norris shirts. To give her some odds here, because mine aren't authentic, she was going to buy me a real Oscar Piastri shirt if he won. And I was pretty convinced he was going to today. But I'm a man of my word, so Emily, you can have my shirt.
And you can have mine.
Right, I guess I'm gonna need to wear something to finish this episode.
Luckily, this one is beautiful, stretchy, and floral. Oh, that feels like victory.
And I feel like Oscar Piastri feels now.
Thanks, Stace. I gotta say, I can't wait till the other one makes its way into my closet as well. I'm one happy Lando Norris fan.
And now I know how Piastri feels. He also lost his shirt today. He was on fire for the first half of the race, but he got hit with Leclerc levels of luck when the safety car came immediately after his pit stop, opening the door for Norris to take the lead. And while Lando sailed off into the sunset, things only went downhill for the Australian from there. After getting into a tussle that damaged his front wing, he went from being Max's potential challenger to the guy who finished behind both Alpines, all thanks to one silly mistake. The most shocking mistake, though, was Max taking out a cone, damaging his car just enough to keep him from catching up to the McLaren of Lando Norris. And from then on, it was just pure stress all the way to the end. Here's an actual photo of Emily, the biggest Lando fan I know, watching the final leg of the race. As soon as the race finished, she rushed over here to collect on our bet. So honestly, I'm not that upset if she found the race stressful to watch. You could tell it was also stressful to Max, who got on the radio to let his team know he was having trouble turning the car. Classic champion's attitude. Whining on the radio to make sure everyone knows it's not your fault when you lose. And when you're the default winner, second place is losing.
If you ain't first, you're last.
But Max wasn't the only person who would have felt like they lost this race. Logan Sargent, who was already a shell of a man going into his home race, crashed out early on.
Watch this, Lise. You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half. And now.
Williams team boss James Vowles was getting a lot of questions this weekend about replacing Sargent, and James remained adamant that he had no plans to replace Logan, while at the same time he was filing for an exemption for Kimi Antonelli to race before he turns 18. And since his birthday is August 25th, the only reason to apply for such an exemption would be because he wants to replace Logan before the summer break. A lot of people seemed shocked by his ruthless behavior, but they seem to be forgetting that this is literally the James from Valtteri It's James. So I'm not surprised that Sargent is getting the Bottas treatment. It wasn't all bad for Logan though. Sure, he may have crashed out and finished last, but since it was his home Grand Prix, it wasn't a very far walk for him to get home. That's right, only winners get rides home. It's a real James Vowles quote. On the subject of shitting the bed, Former King of the Streets, Checo Perez, only managed to take 5th place in the most dominant Formula One car of all time. This would have been more worrying to him if Daniel had done as well in the Grand Prix as he did in the sprint. Speaking of America's other driver, Daniel Ricciardo got 4th place in the sprint, but finished outside the points in the Grand Prix, while his teammate Yuki Tsunoda finished in the points once again. In short, things started out promising, but ended in disappointment. Kind of like his career. At least the Ferraris were looking good out there. Figuratively, taking 3rd and 4th, they must have been quite happy. But as for how they looked literally, well, they looked like a child took the bucket tool and MS Paint and added some blue to their livery. Their livery looked like such shit that I'm going to start calling them Scudiarrhea Ferrari. You might be wondering why they added the blue, and that's because they brought on title sponsor Hewlett-Packard. They wanted to make their new partnership known by chewing up the beautiful red Ferrari livery and spitting out a gross mashup of colors. Kind of the way their printers do. When asked why HP wanted to partner with Ferrari, they said, "We recently failed to implement printers as a subscription and are being sued by multiple nations for anti-competitive behavior in the printer ink market. Given our history with failed strategies, we found the team at Ferrari to be kindred spirits." And now over to the Canadian positivity guy for the Canadian summary of the Grand Prix. Lando Norris was saying all weekend, even hooked up to a lie detector at one point, that he believed he would win a race with McLaren. And he did. But he also managed to do it on a weekend where he had a bandage on his nose thanks to an undescribed situation where he got cut by broken glass while partying in Amsterdam. Just his luck that the day where his face would be plastered all over everything and his picture would go down in the history books would be the one time he has a wound on his face. Getting the real hockey experience. Respect. You might say he used up his bad luck on that wound. Kind of like when you've been waiting on hold forever for customer service and you go to take a dump only for them to pick up. It's not ideal, but I'll take it. Which is exactly what your mom says whenever I can't get it all the way up.
It's not ideal, but I'll take it.
For the poll of the week, I asked, do you watch the pre-race show? And most people said they prefer not to watch the pre-race show, which wasn't surprising to me. I usually only catch the tail end of it while I'm waiting for the Grand Prix to start. But this year, I tuned in for the whole thing, purely because I wanted to see if it would be as big of a train wreck as it was last year. And I'm pleased to say it was pretty normal. It didn't feel like they were trying too hard the way it did in 2023. And I'm hoping that going forward, the organizers continue to treat the event more like a Grand Prix and less like a music festival. And now, for everyone who's made it this far, I give you the spicy joke of the week. Williams has applied for an exemption to allow Kimi Antonelli to race at just 17 years old. Given that he turns 18 at the end of August, you might be wondering, why are they rushing? There should be plenty of time. Until you realize what's actually going on. He's F1's first Make-A-Wish driver. Did you like that? Well then, drive on over to my video about China. You'll probably like that too.